Welcome to Holistic Horseworks Talks. Join us with founder April Love as we talk about equine care. Learn what you can do to keep your horse happy, healthy, rideable, and sound through their 30s. Have a question you'd like to submit to the podcast? Just email April at holistichorseworks.com for a chance to get it featured on the next episode.
Hey, Joie. So it's so nice to meet you, and you're just diving into my program here on Maui.
Yeah.
And what brought you to this?
Oh boy, where to begin? First of all, I'm thrilled to have found your work, and it just feels like I've found a purpose. Like I'm someone that grew up with horses. They've always been a part of my life and a huge passion for me. And I competed really seriously all the way up until I left for college, and I'm in a point in my life now where I want to find a way to help horses, right? And also integrate like spiritual stuff and energy, and like find a way to offer service. And it just feels so like when I discovered your stuff, everything it was just like, like, oh my gosh, someone's doing something that like I didn't even know existed. And I'm so glad that it does. And I'm so excited to dive into learning how to actually offer it. And I just feel like such a beginner, right? Like in a sense, I have a lot of experience with horses, and being around them, and I just know how much there is to learn, and practice. And so I'm just really grateful that you offer all of this information and this program and all of it. And I'm rearing to go.
And you just got the workbook and the videos. Did it seem like it was a lot of information?
Yeah. Here's my workbook here. Have it. Yeah.
I know people like, what are you offering that's different? I'm like, well, each other course is only like one thing. And I put it all together with like, no hoof, no horse, the frog balance and the emotional balance and the spiritual connection, and that they're sentient beings. They didn't wake up this morning and say, I'm just not going to take right lead canter for you because I want you to kick me and whip me all day. Trying to get that right leg canter when my right stifle hurts. And I'm like, oh my God, just listen to the horse, fix the issues, and you're going to have a really nice horse.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like a lot of information, but like for me, it's not like, it's been a joy to like explore it, because it's like all of these things are like making sense now. It's, at least in my experience, in different areas of the horse world, different industries, it's like there's this missing piece, right? And like I feel in some way there's probably many missing pieces, right? But like this is definitely one of them, where it's like, hey everyone, like let's look at these basics, right? Like just observe your horse, listen to your horse, acknowledge that it is a sentient being, and acknowledge, first of all, that everything is energy, right? And like there's no separation. So just bringing all of these things that are just truth into our relationship with horses, especially I think especially with performance horses, right? Which is something I have a lot of experience with, where you're asking so much of these horses. There's so much pressure. There's like physically, on every level, emotionally, psychologically. And from what I've seen, there's almost none of this kind of stuff. There's what supplements can we give them? How many vet visits can we have to just like get them through this next event? Like there's no long-term like longevity of these horses. Like a lot of horses are basically crippled by the time they're like 8, where it's like
4.
Yeah.
A lot of my clients have been told to put down 4-year-old horses that at age 2 went into reining training, and they wonder why they're done. And the vet's like, I don't know how to fix it. And I'm like, oh my God, it's just a crooked horse. You just need to fix, the horse.
Yeah. And like you said, the holistic approach, it just makes sense, right? It's just like it's like Joie kind of, and it's so easy to miss, right? And so like when you talk about, for example, look at their feet, and like every time the farrier is coming, they're trimming and trying to reshape the foot, and you're like, well, that's not going to address the actual cause of what's happening. And so I just feel really excited to learn this stuff, and like your information is really accessible, right? Like you've done a good job of making it like very accessible to anybody, but especially I think those of us who love horses and have a deep connection with them and want to work with them moving forward. For me personally, like I see this as a pathway, like that I want to explore and learn more and find my own way of working it, you know. And yeah, so that's kind of where I'm coming from.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, people would get on and ride my horses and say, wow, it's the best trained horse they've ever done. I just thought about trotting and it trotted. I said, yeah, but when you thought about it, your body tensed, you got in the position, you already signaled to the horse what you wanted to do. If you have to pick up a rein or use a leg aid, that's a second time you've told the horse. And so when we get that deep emotional bond, I just took all the classes for my horse because I was doing 2,000 miles of endurance and I was tired of the vet saying grade 2 lame, don't know where it is, give him butte, give him time off. And you do, and then it comes back. And when you're in an endurance ride and you're always being pulled at mile 25 or 30 and sitting there for 4 hours with your horse at the vet check, waiting for a horse trailer ride home, you're like, why can't I just find the issue? Fix that. So I just kept taking more classes until I put it all together for my sentient horse. And then we did 2,000 miles of endurance in 2 years with no vet pulls because I was always asking him, what do you need?
Yeah.
You can give a mental picture. You know, we're going to do a 3-day, 155-mile ride, and it's going to be this hot, and we're going to climb these type of hills. And I could ask him, what does his body need now to support that before? Where most competition people are kind of doing it after, or give him a massage after, or butte after. And he'd be like, well, I need some more clay for my gut, and I need some more vitamin C for my joints because it's a lot of hills. So it's getting that communication. And we had 41 consecutive rides in 2 years with no vet pulls.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing too, is like all the talk, all of the theory, all of these is one piece of this. But then there's also just like the results, like you can see in your videos, like you just demonstrate, like, look at the hips. Now look at the hips. You know, it's like you can't not see that. And so like for me, I'm someone that does have a relationship with spirituality and energy and like that stuff I already am clued into, and like I don't have to try to believe in some, like the emotion code stuff is really cool, and I'm like all about exploring it, you know, stuff like that, where in my experience, at least in the circles I've been in with horse people, sometimes like there's less openness to some of the more like holistic approach or like the more woo-woo stuff. And so I think there's a real opportunity with this where like we can bring this stuff into these realms, and the results will speak for themselves, and whether or not the clients like buy into any of it or believe in any of it is really not going to matter so much as like we're helping your horse and like we're showing you how you can help your horse, and maybe like it will offer an opportunity for people to like expand their own awareness, right? As they work with their horses. And that's something that's really exciting for me as like a prospect, and like that's work that you're clearly already engaged in. So I see that as another really cool element of all of this.
Yeah. So all my clients were like, my horses are more excited to see you come when you drive up in your little car. They're all waiting at the gate. And that horse wasn't on the list, but he's not letting any other horses pass. So he's obviously sensing he needs some work. And
Yeah.
that's why I made the horse yoga and put it on YouTube. Because they're like, how can I get into this process? Because when I was paying people to work on my horses, it was like, okay, so I just paid you $90 for what? How does it not come back?
Yeah.
It's my homework. You just wrote all these things. So I don't know. See you next month. None of my body workers wanted to get themselves out of work. where I would rather fix a horse, teach the owner how to keep it that way, and get 10 referrals.
Yeah.
Your horse is doing amazing. I would not hear from clients for a year and a half. Oh, we've been doing the daily yoga. Now it's time to call you because my horse can't do the yoga.
Yeah.
And you said you have yoga in your life and everything. So you know what the breathing and the organ releasing and the fascia releasing does.
Yeah. 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 And excuse me, I actually have never seen horse yoga before. Like I've seen like that gimmicky of like you do yoga next to horses, that kind of stuff. But like I've never seen yoga that's designed for the actual horse. And that's really exciting to me. Like it's so interesting because I just moved here in December and
Maui.
to Maui, and my landing here has been completely unexpected and like such an initiation. Like I moved here with a job in place and a place to live, and I bought a truck here. And within a week, like the person that offered me the job took the job away and was breaking the lease on the property that we're renting. And the truck is a lemon and wouldn't start. And so it was just like, and so, but like, it's been such a gift because, this idea that I had of like, oh, I'm going to take this opportunity to try this, everything fell apart that I had planned. And then what happened is like, because I didn't like collapse and give up, like I stayed open. And then like, I found this stuff. Like I'm like, this is why I'm here. Like, that's really how I feel. Like, I know that sounds dramatic, but last year my work was with horses, right? And like I was just had this feeling, I'm like, there's something missing. Like I'm riding people's horses for them. I'm working with horses. And there's just, it's kind of what you describe. It's like these clients, they have all these issues with the horses, like behavioral issues, training issues, all of these things.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, my job is to just get the horse out and exercise and like do the training stuff. And it's like, I have a gap in my knowledge where I was like, I don't know what's going on with this horse. And I also had this real desire, like to marry some of this, like the way that I live with like yoga and all of this with the horse stuff. And there was just like a mismatch. And then like, when I discovered your stuff, I somehow everything just kind of like, okay, there's a way to move in this space where you can offer service and in this way that really calls to me, but like also honors all of this truth, all of the spiritual truth, like energy awareness, all of it, healing. And so yeah, that's kind of where I'm coming from. But yeah, I just really am beginning, and I'm enthusiastic, as you might be able to tell.
Well, it's great because you had signed up. We both live on Maui for this, and you get to do one-on-one with me.
Yeah.
And what I teach is like, if you're riding or performing on a horse, you don't want to change everything because when you release the first rib and elbow, it changes how the tendons and suspensory looks. But if you're being paid to exercise a horse, you're going to like, well, they can't listen to leg aches because the ribs and intercostals are locked and they're tight in their diaphragm. And you can just you can get off, loosen the girth, do a couple rib lifts, check the hind end. And then all of a sudden that horse is a little bit different under saddle. And I'm like, what'd you do? The other trainer couldn't get that. Well, I just did some kind of body tune-up things. And, you can, book me for a full session from head to toe. I guarantee you give you a different horse, but this is just what I was going to do during this lesson.
Yeah.
So it's nice that you have that and you can feel that immediately when you get back on the horse. So I designed the yoga for show horses that after each event, like in Gymkhana, the worst thing you can do is sit on that horse while you're waiting to get in the gate. All the kids just sit there, right? And they're under the shade in the trees. The horses don't get any kind of relief from that back. And when you just sit and compress a muscle, the whole back goes numb.
Yeah.
So then the next event, they're hollow-headed and high-backed, where mine is you jump off the horse, you loosen the girth, you lift up the back of the Western saddle to let some air in because most people are competing in hot climates. And you can do the whole yoga with the tack on.
Okay, you can
bring up that hind end. You can, open that whole spine again. and to keep them moving, give them some water, electrolytes, whatever. But if you're running anaerobic, anytime like you run for a barrel or do something and you're over 170 beats per minute, you're going to make lactic acid in the muscles.
Mm-hmm.
And standing still after that as a yoga person, is really bad.
Yeah.
So my clients that are doing this are still competing like at the same times and levels at the end of the day as the beginning of the day by keeping the athlete warmed up, tuned up, lactic acid, liver and kidneys, everything going.
Yeah.
The 24-year-old horse that was hype. They got him for $500 off the feedlot, a thoroughbred, safe for the husband because he couldn't even trot. He could barely walk a straight line. And a year later, he's winning Gymkhana. I said, "You're doing what?" Oh, he loves it. Well, a 24-year-old horse, he's not going to be spooking. He knows his things. You can put the pole in the barrel and run back and everything. And at 24 to 26, he had a whole following and all these ribbons.
Wow.
As soon as he came out, he would turn around and touch his nose to the stirrup and get his treat and his good boy. And then he'd run him through the yoga and stuff. And so, throwing away horses at 6, 8, and 10 years old is just a crime.
It's hard. It truly is. It's so heartbreaking. And just like watching that happen, like being in the industry and like watching it happen with horses that, and just watching them decline and then because this is the trainer's business, it's like, then they just want to get rid of them, and it's like, oh, I've watched that happen so many times and it just breaks the heart. And I, up until now, like I didn't have a way, I didn't know how to like help in that scenario. It was just sort of like how it goes. And so it feels really empowering to like have found your work and to know that there's a way to move forward and educate myself so that I can maybe like bring some of this knowledge into like the network of horse connections that I have existing. And also, who knows, beyond that, like I hope to create a network here, right? Like I'm here now and I'm so open. Like I have to like pace myself because I get like very passionate and driven. Like I've probably watched all of your videos already. And
that's a lot. There's a lot of hours of videos.
It's a lot. Yeah. And I read most of the emotion code book and I ordered an acupressure book, which is arriving tomorrow, I believe. So I'm just like,
were you able to find one like this or was it like way too expensive?
I got not that particular one. I got the one that's from what was it?
We'll get into that later.
Yeah, Tallgrass. That's the one that I ended up getting.
So each class that I took was missing something, So if you go into a people chiropractor and they have, the chart on the wall, this organ affects this lumbar spine.
Mm-hmm.
And emotions affect organs. So horses can take a tumble or a fall and have an organ not hanging right. There's just all these things that, are in the whole package. In my traveling and teaching, there was a lady who hauled in horses. They'd never been in stalls, and we were working inside a barn in Iowa in stalls and they were just freaking out. And all the students are like, whatever. And I just used the muscle testing and I said, try emotion coding them first. And they had to do it from outside the stall.
Yeah.
And in 10 minutes, they all settled down and could get work done.
Yeah.
So do you drug the horse? Do you lunge the heck out of the horse trying to take it off? Or do you see what is the issue going on emotionally and spiritually with that a sentient being?
Yeah. And I have to say, as I've been learning this stuff, I just keep having memories of specific horses that I've encountered last year in particular, because it's fresh in my mind. Like training barns that I like worked with, people that I knew in their training programs. And I just like, I have specific horses in mind that I want to go, like, I want to bring this to, because I'm like, even just looking at their bodies, I'm like, I'm watching your videos, I'm like, I know exactly a horse that is this, right? Like has all of this going on and like also behavioral issues because it's really uncomfortable and nobody knows how to actually help it. And so it's so fun. And also like, yeah, I just feel really excited about like starting, right? And like practicing, because I know this is something that's going to take time to master, right? And like, but I also like, this is what I want to do. So I'm willing to do the work that it takes to get there. But yeah, it's just been such a joy to like explore your resources and to meet you. So thank you for everything and being open. And when I saw that you were doing a clinic at the end of the month, I was like, oh my gosh, this is perfect. Like, here we go.
This is why nothing else worked out, because
Exactly.
everything
That's
out.
literally how I feel. I'm like, okay, here I am.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it made my whole difference in training horses and doing endurance rides and just checking in with how is the horse doing today and what do you need?
Yeah. It's
You
such a
know, and
basic
once you learn this, you can do people, you can do dogs, cats. I visited people and a cat jumps up on the table and they're like, well, that's weird. I was in Switzerland. That cat doesn't like people and it hides. And I said, yeah, it just wants me to do its access and it tips. And they went, no, and then it was gone.
it's, yeah, the animals know, like it's the energy, right? And yeah, I also like one of the horses that came to mind as I've been learning about your stuff, excuse me, is a horse that I actually had a lot of issues with when I was working with him. He was a horse that has pulls back a lot. And so when I was learning about what you were talking about is like what actually happens in structurally and like within their head. I just what happened is like I remember having a lot of confusion, frustration with this horse because it was a dangerous horse. And working with him, my job, I just didn't have the knowledge that I needed in order to actually like succeed, right? And like what happened is I just felt like this huge amount of compassion rise up in me. I'm like, because obviously I knew there's something going on with this horse physically that
Migraines, all kinds of stuff.
yeah, and also like his like conformationally, he's really long backed. Like he's got all kinds of stuff going on, and probably trauma from training. You know, like he's just a horse that won't let you catch him. Like he's across the board unhappy, and I just did not have the skills or the knowledge to like actually help him. And so like as I've been learning your stuff, he's a horse that's come to mind is like, oh, I want to bring this to a horse like that, you know, and like and offer something like this. And so for me learning this stuff is like a really personal thing, because I want to be able to like give back to horses in a way that they've given to me in my whole life, and do it better than I ever have before. So yeah, it's just across the board. Like this is what I want to do. And it's so crazy. It's nice. It's like such a wild feeling to have. It's like suddenly everything is just like, okay, this is the thing, you know?
And if he's still alive on this planet, you can clear 3 trapped emotions on him a day.
Yeah.
You can send distant cranial healing. You can just envision him in front of you and just kind of focus when you know he's not being ridden or something. So it's nice how this energetic work can be done. A lot of my instructors do distance cranial sessions on their horses, on their clients' horses and stuff. So it's just what else is possible?
I know.
The trainer and the vets are just saying inject the hocks by age 3. And I'm like, well, your hip is out here, your hocks are way in here, and your hind feet are almost touching together. So yes, the hocks and the stifles are not loading correctly. Why don't we just fix that?
Yeah.
Instead of poking holes in the joint capsule so that all the synovial fluid can leak out.
Yeah. And let me just say as well, April, like just listening to you talk like that, like speak about horses, I want to be able to do that. Like I want to have the knowledge to be able to speak about all the anatomy, all like the functionality of the body, like all of the diagrams you have in here about and like the skeletal systems and like even just when you're speaking about like how the ribs work, you know, and just like all of this stuff. For me, I'm just like, yes, this is yes. Like how is it that I don't already know this? But like I'm so excited to be learning it and to be able to talk about it with that much clarity because it really does help. Like especially coming from someone who like I know what it's like to be a horse owner and like um a contestant, right? Like you are a competitor and so I know from that lens what it's like. But and like looking for help, like you've described from people like vets and all the like what let's keep our horse sound, let's keep shoes on his feet, you know, all these things. But then now I'm coming from a little bit of a different perspective where like um I don't have a horse like my horse is retired and he lives back in California, but I don't have a horse that I'm not coming at it from the lens of like, I want to compete. I'm coming from a lens of how can I serve these horses? You know, how can I help? How can I help the whole community, right? In the way that you are doing? Like, how can I contribute to this? Because for me, it's just true, right? Like you can't argue with it. And I do like, I'm so on board for all the energy stuff. And I also have a few questions about that. Is that something that we can get into now, or do you have other stuff you want to share first?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to share, if you haven't already, get my fourth book on Amazon, What I See When I See a Horse. So we're giving out the Horse 101, right, as a free ebook. That's how your horse got crooked, right? So, and I wanted it to be like a cute, funny little book, like squatting with your spurs on.
Yeah.
And then this one, which it kind of explains itself, right?
Yeah.
So everyone's like, so what do you see? Because I can walk up to a horse in a stall and say it's heavy on left rein. It doesn't want to take right lead canter. It's probably real cinchy and girthy, and it's cross-firing at the canter. And they're like, how can you tell? I said, because I'm looking at how the hooves are growing, how the body's loading the hooves, you know, what cranial bones are actually, you know, putting that whole thing together. But that's what I put in this. So like when you read it, you can start to learn how to just go in and see all the issues. I don't need to see the horse walk, trot, canter to see, you know, to show them. And I teach all my clients how to palpate the tendons and suspensories on their performance horses. Because if they're sore, no more circles, a week off. Let's work on it so we can come back and compete.
Yeah.
So I just highly recommend getting that. I might have an extra one that you can look at. And then we'll get into our first Zoom lesson today. But I just wanted to really appreciate you for doing this short little interview of how you're finding me and all of these things, because I'm so passionate about helping horses globally, because they should be living till they're 40, you know, and people are putting them down between 5 and 20 years old because they're in crooked bodies. So if we start working on them as foals, by 6 months of age, they already have first rib misalignment. They already have high-low syndrome. Nothing in that body is going to hold balance. And we got to start with them younger before they go into training.
Yeah.
So thank you for being willing to do this for me. And we will start our actual first lesson now.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Holistic Horseworks Talks with April Love. Remember to check the show notes for links to all the resources mentioned in this episode. Have a question you'd like to submit to the podcast? Email April at holistichorseworks.com for a chance to get it featured on the next episode. Loved this information? Share it with your horse friends. They'll find it helpful too. To learn more, visit holistichorseworks.com. And before you go, make sure you have a copy of our free ebook, Horse 101, Everything You Wish You Had Known Before You Got Your First Horse, at horseacademy101.com.